this topic is my favorite soapbox, so I've got a few more.
Great, please go. Fire away.
Okay. The next biggest one is that reflectors and oracles and projectors and manifestors are somehow special. Like, they're the special ones in the human design pantheon. And like, if you're just a generator, like you're just a generator, right? And you'll see this, like if you look at pop human design, you will see this focus on use your projector powers to lead the world forward. Like it's this like as if only projectors.
I think I saw that post today.
Right? Did you? I'm not even kidding. It's everywhere.
For sure.
And that's not to diminish the power that projectors have, certainly, right? But guys, our generators produce life force. Like if we aren't supporting generators to create joy in their responses to life, guess what? We're all screwed. All of us. Because there's no building. You can't build with nothing.
This is true.
So it absolutely drives me bananas when people are like, oh, well, I'm a splenic projector and that's like only 4% of the population. I don't care. That's only 4% of the population because your skill set isn't that useful. Like, it's a niche skill set. Wow. I'm glad you recognize that, but also like... So yeah, so this is a big thing for me. I just, in case you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, that's great.
Keep going, girl.
Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3, that human design is static. So we're like all very married to the types in human design. Like we've got generators and man-gens and we've got reflectors and we've got, whichever one I didn't say, manifestors. It's not static. We actually didn't even have projectors until 1781.
Wow.
So before that, you would maybe get like 1 or 2 projectors born every generation.
Wait, can I look up what was happening in 1781?
Uranus was discovered.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So projectors showed up when Uranus was discovered.
Yep.
What else was happening in society and in the world? Do you know offhand?
I'm trying to think of what else. I know that astronomy was making huge advances. I just happen to know the Uranus thing because it changed our whole trajectory.
It also marked the beginning of government under the Articles of Confederation,
Ooh.
as well as the surrender of British armed forces in the American Revolution.
Wild.
Just
in
case you didn't know.
I didn't.
I did not know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So projectors came in and they were here to guide us through the Uranian lifespan. So it's not static. And in fact, there's already a new type on Earth that have started being born since 2018.
Cool.
I see them everywhere. They're real freaky.
What are they?
So I don't know what they're going to be called. I mean, I haven't thought of like a name for them yet because I'm still not really sure what to do with them. They're kind of a mix between a projector and a manifestor. They have an intentional beam that comes out, but they're all born with their, the chakras in their hand centers fully activated.
Wow.
And I'm curious if anybody, I would love like for people to write in about this or if you guys have experienced this, but if you've seen a baby, this is how I discovered this. I started going out after COVID and there were all these babies and all of a sudden I'm getting telepathic messages and I can't figure out where they're coming from because they're like fully formed thoughts, which normally children don't do. They send you pictures.
Weird.
And then I would look around and then there would be like this tiny little being, 2 feet tall, eyes locked on me, like, I know you hear me. And I would be like, yeah, dude, I do. But what is happening?
I just got my whole body just lit up. That's wild.
Yeah, they're wild.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're fully conscious very early on, and they're not losing their as much of their memory. Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yeah.
Since 2018?
2018, roughly. And it's not an exact science,
Sure,
we say 1791 or whatever, 81, but it's the same thing. Right. It's, roughly.
Wow. Interesting. 2018. Yeah, that was right before COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I wonder what the name's going to be. I'm curious.
I feel like they're going to be healers.
Gosh, we need that.
That's my intuition because of the palms being fully lit up and so much of the work that we do with healing obviously coming through the hands.
Yeah.
And sort of being unafraid to initiate, but still being able to sense and magnify energy the ways that projectors do. So, I mean, like loosely in my head, I call them the healers, but you know, who knows what
Wow.
that will become. I'm certainly not like the arbiter of all the names. I just like to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So is there, and I apologize if I didn't do the research on, you mentioned there was a person who pulled it all together.
Yes.
Who was that?
So he goes by Ra Uru Hu.
Okay.
And he was a teacher who lived in Canada, and he literally
Good
had
Canadian.
a good Canadian, and he had a vision. One week, there was a mysterious light in his cabin, and he went in and sat down and channeled the entire human design system,
Wow.
including the passage of information through neutrinos through the body centers, which is where the quantum physics part comes in. Neutrinos had not even been described or discovered at that point, and he was able to not only name them but describe exactly what they did and which planets and celestial spheres would generate them.
Wow.
So,
What was the timing of this?
it was in the 80s.
Okay.
In the early 80s.
So still relatively.
Relatively young, yeah. And there are other things I've read, to be totally honest with you. So I've read a few. I have some suspicions reading some of like the sutras and even the Bhagavad Gita. Like sometimes I read it and I'm like, I wonder if what they're describing is actually they're talking about the auric field.
Interesting.
So my suspicion is that he wasn't the only person who's ever tried to describe these structures or these systems or what was coming through. I think
He just categorized
he
it.
just categorized it and did it in a way that was really usable.
Yeah, digestible, understandable, interesting.
Right. Which even a lot of people would argue that's not
Debatable.
That's debatable. But I specifically don't reference him a ton, largely because he is a white man, and a lot of his teachings to me were very Eurocentric, and they also were a little masochistic. I mean, not masochistic. What's the word when you're kind of derogatory towards women?
Misogynistic.
Misogynistic, yeah. So, yeah, he has some wording that I really don't love, so I actually don't reference him directly a lot. I'll tend to reference some of the people who came after and kind of made it their own, just because I'm...
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
It's actually, I feel that way about a lot of yoga and just the feminine, depressing,
Yeah.
and we'll just say maybe even feminine hating.
Yeah.
And that's my humble opinion, but I feel like there's a lot of that. I mean, even in Buddhism too. I mean, you know, just women are subcategories, subservient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say at the worst, in these traditions, women are denigrated, and I would say at best they're often just sort of overlooked. Like, we don't really think about how it's going to fit in the system for them.
We are like literal generators of life force,
Right.
like by just creation. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
Do you have
Bad men doing bad things.
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry.
guys.
Wonderful male listeners
Sorry.
and
Yes.
friends.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.